Flux Chapter 3, Once Upon Time. Now, weirdly, this is going to be one where I can see why a lot of people might dislike this particular episode, but for me, I think in a weird way it actually kind of works. I mean, it's completely off the wall and a lot of the time doesn't really make much sense, but at the same time, it kind of works. So, the 13th Doctor, played once again by Jodie Whittaker, is trying to save her companion Yasmin Khan and Vinda, played by Jacob Anderson and Madeleine Gill, from the situation that Azure and Swarm have put them in at the end of the previous episode. Azure, played once again by Rashenda Sandal, and Swarm, played by Sam Sproul. She and Dan Lewis, played by John Bishop, have just discovered that Azure and Swarm plan to send the full force of time through Yasmin and Vinda, but through some temporal trickery, the Doctor is able to kind of disperse them at the last second and effectively expel everyone into time and hides everyone kind of within their own timeline while she tries to figure things out. And in doing this, the gang are forced to effectively relive moments from their past, with the characters who, from the real world, seemingly substituting in for a couple of the characters that originally appeared in their timeline. For example, we see Yaz's time as a police officer, see her enjoying some food during off moments with a police officer friend, and the friend is suddenly, for some reason, the Doctor. We see Dan and his budding romance with his friend Diane, played once again by Nadia Albina, and ultimately how she ended up disappearing and what's ultimately happening with her. And we also see Yaz interacting with her sister Sonia, played once again by Bhavnisha Pamar, a name I've almost certainly butchered. I apologise. Now, while I think that Dan's and Yaz's stories could have really been expanded upon in this story, the main kind of what's the word? The main progression is given to both the Doctor and, weirdly, to Vinda. Now, once again, there are some appearances by characters that we've already seen, like Joseph Williamson, who, once again, Dan ends up running into in the tunnels, and we still don't know exactly why he's there or why he's relevant, but we'll find out with time. And there is also another brief appearance by Carvanista. Now, while I've briefly explained Dan's and Yaz's kind of storylines, the two others that we get to see are one from the Doctor's kind of past, which is shown as kind of Jodie Whittaker's Doctor, as well as three soldiers that resemble Yaz, Dan, and Vinda. In reality, they're just random soldiers. And it was supposedly at a time in the Doctor's past when she was working for the Division, and how they had previously managed to capture Azure and Swarm. So, trying to find out how she originally defeated them, she goes back into their timeline in order to sort things out, and it's really interesting to see. And we also get the reappearance of the Fugitive Doctor, played by Jo Martin. Now, it's hinted that this was a time when she inhabited this body. We're seeing things just for simplicity's sake through Jodie's eyes, but the actual Doctor who was around doing this was Jo Martin. So, of course, the Doctor would have no memory of this. And so, trying to work it through and ultimately try and work it out. But really, the big character progression, I think, is the one given to Vinda. Because we ultimately see what his life had been like before, with him accepting a post working for a being known as the Grand Serpent, played by Craig Parkinson, with his commanding officer, most of the time, is shown to be a man, but throughout most of his memories, reliving it, is in the form of Yaz. He accepted a position working for the Grand Serpent, who seems to be a little bit mentally abusive, saying things like, well, you're not here to think, you're just here to do what I ask. And the way he ultimately ended up at his post, kind of overlooking the planet that we see in the Halloween apocalypse, was he was overseeing a meeting between the Grand Serpent and another alien race, and he was told that he needed to turn off the recording of the meeting when the Grand Serpent asked for something unethical. In trying to report this to his higher-ups, the whole business was swept under the rug, and that's how he ultimately got his position overlooking planet Earth. But then we're also introduced to another character named Belle, played by Thadia Graham. Now, I thought at first, upon seeing her, I thought at first, oh, this is going to be another character that they're going to kind of set up here. They're not really going to explain who she is, but they're going to explain it later on. But no, they actually do explain her quite thoroughly. She's shown to be a survivor of the Flux, just trying to survive in the universe that's now consistently out to kill her. Of course, it's the Doctor Who universe. And we get to see how certain alien races are trying to take advantage of the Flux's panic that the Flux has caused. Such as the Daleks, the Sontarans are hinted to still be at, and we see her get to take down a Cyberman, which is pretty cool. And throughout the entire time, she is seemingly talking into her device, which gets a bit confusing, but then we see by the end of the storyline, when the Doctor and everyone manages to escape back, she drops Vinda back off at home, which is now a war-torn land, and it's revealed that the person who Belle has been talking to, the person she's been recording for, is Vinda. Belle was Vinda's partner and the mother of his yet unborn child. Which I thought throughout the entire thing that Belle was going to be another character who they set up here but then explain later on who she is, but no. I mean, just seeing the two of them having a conversation yet apart, it was really beautiful, and that legitimately I did like it. Now, the only thing that I would really say that I really kind of rubbed me the wrong way with this particular episode is right at the end. Although, actually, before I get on to that, the last thing the Doctor tries to check out, last memory she tries to go, she ends up somewhere, we're not entirely sure where it is, where she's spoken to by a being named Orsoc, played by Barbara Flynn. And Orsoc reveals to the Doctor that she has allied herself with Swarm and Azure, and that the Flux wasn't just some natural event. This isn't just like the end of the universe sweeping in as everything has to end, as things often do. The Flux was designed. Someone or something is trying to wipe out the entire universe to start afresh. And it's a question of really why. But which does add an element of mystery to it, which I do kind of like. Now, as I said, the only thing that really kind of rubbed me the wrong way, and that I guess I didn't really like about the episode, is right at the end, after doing with all of this, when everyone's out and the Doctor's trying to find out more, but she's not allowed to, she seems to get a little bit prickly with Yaz, and I'm not entirely sure why. Like, when everyone's kind of being ushered into the TARDIS to leave, and the Doctor says, well, we've got to keep going with this. I mean, we've got to find out more. I mean, why am I involved in this? And Yaz like, why would you be involved with this? And the Doctor just turns to her and says rather sharply, does everything I say have to end in a debate with you? It's just like, whoa, Doctor, whoa. Like, where's that come from? And it's just like, she just seems to be really prickly for the last few minutes. And it's just like, why? Yaz is being perfectly civil with you. Why are you suddenly being so harsh with her? But anyway, it does end, though, with a pretty cool cliffhanger. Which is, throughout Yaz's visions throughout the entire episode, she's seemingly seen weeping angels. Like, when she was sitting in the police officer's car, she looked in the wing mirror and saw a weeping angel behind them, and then when she was playing a video game with Sonia, so Sonia can learn how to play the video game so she can look good in front of her crush, sees the weeping angel on screen. And then at the end, when they're back in the TARDIS, she looks at her phone and sees the weeping angel in there, which seemingly then manages to escape into the TARDIS and starts piloting the TARDIS. And if you remember the end of Blink, when the weeping angels couldn't get into the TARDIS but were trying so hard to get in, You know the Weeping Angel inside the TARDIS piloting it. That's bad news. And honestly, it gets me hyped up for the next episode. Village of the Angels. Can't wait to see that. So, all in all, I can see why people probably wouldn't like Once Upon a Time. It is a little bit confusing and doesn't necessarily give enough character development for Yaz and Dan. It gives a lot for the Doctor and Vinda, but it could have done a bit more here and there. But on the whole, I think it kind of works. I mean, for a story set in time and fractured time, it does kind of work for me. And it's weird, but it works. So there you go. There's my quick thoughts on Once Upon a Time. I do think it's the weakest of what we've got with Flux so far, but honestly, it sets us up for what looks to be a cracking episode with Village of the Angels, and I can't wait to see how they do with that one. So there you go. There's my quick thoughts on Once Upon a Time. What are your thoughts on it? I'd love to hear them. Anyway, until next time, see ya.